Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining me again. My name is Wilkie and I'm here with the next Lost Ark video. Today we're going to talk about the values, or how to determine the values. This is sort of like a follow-up video planned or guided towards the people that watched the post-Chaos Dungeon video where I spoke about dismantle this, keep that, kind of like a video. And here I am having a ring to kind of elaborate a few things on how I would assess the value and how I would go about judging if this is worth selling. Maybe I should use it myself. Should I even bother trying to sell it? And always just dismantle if I don't think it's worth anything at all. So the way we go about this, first of all, the very first and the very obvious thing you see is the quality of said item. In this case, we have a quality 10 ring. Very simple and straightforward rule here. The higher the quality, the better the price is going to be. So this one's a quality low because 10 is a fairly low roll. For the rings though, it's not as bad if the quality is that low. You're not going to be using as many stats if you're comparing it to the ring on the left side here. I would only have a difference of 19 specialty, which isn't the end of the world. Some people do like to min-max though, so typically this is not the ideal roll, but it might be interesting to some people. Tradable count. This is mostly ignored, but it is something to keep in mind. If your ring, or any item for that matter, can't be resold anymore, you're going to be stuck on it forever, so the only way out at the end is dismantle it. In this case here, you could also resell it in order to get some of the gold back, maybe even resell it for a higher value, in case maybe there is somebody who really wants this kind of ring. Outside of that, base stats are always going to be fixed, so there's nothing to be talking about that. Additional stats. This is something I briefly touched in the dismantle of this video. Specialty, crit, and agility are the stats that are most commonly used in the game. Endurance, subdue, and proficiency are typically not really used in PvE, but most of the time you can probably almost instantly dismantle those pieces. There are some exceptions to the rule, but I think if you're playing the game to such a long extent, you do know these rules by yourself. So basically, specialty, crit, agility, keep, or look at the rest. Anything else, just throw it out of the window. Onto the engraving effects, which is probably where the major value gains or losses come into play. Now, specifically for tier 3 artifact gears, this is not applicable to tier 1 and tier 2 gear, so keep that in mind. For tier 3 artifact gears, the highest roll of engravings is what you see on the screen. A +5 positive engraving topped with a +3 positive engraving. So we have Crystal 5 and Heavy Armor 3. So this is essentially the highest number of positive engraving points that you can have. Now onto the combination itself. Crystal is a very straightforward, one of the go-to damage engravings that can be used. It's a very, I wouldn't say it's as powerful as Grudge, because on flat value it isn't. Some people do like to take it as an alternative. In any case, Crystal is a very potent engraving to have either as a primary damage source or if a secondary to top off any builds. Heavy Armor isn't the most common engraving. Some people, however, do use it. So in this scenario, I wouldn't say it's the ideal combination, but it's definitely a combination of engravings that people would potentially be using, making this somewhat desirable. At least I would not discard this straight away. I would say specialty, I mean, it's a low grade, but it's a ring. Crystal 5, Heavy Armor 3 is definitely usable. The only last thing that kind of wears it down, and that is not a pun, is Wear 3. There are 4 negative engravings in the game. That is Rust, which reduces your damage, Wear, that reduces your armor, Peacefulness reduces attack speed, Slowness reduces movement speed. So ideally, you have none of those active. So ideally, you'd have a setup like mine, 5 engravings, 0 negative engravings. In case you can't make it work, or you just have so many different weird combinations that you can't make it work, and you do have to settle in for one of those negative engravings, I would go for the following in order from least impact to worst impact. So Peacefulness is probably the one that I would take in most cases, alongside with Slowness. The only time where I would really not want Slowness is if my build would be based off Blitz Commander. As you guys know, Blitz Commander is based off movement speed, so having movement speed reduced means lower damage. So yeah, if you have Blitz Commander, you don't want Slowness. Outside of this, these are like the 2 engravings, or the 2 negative engravings, that are like kind of okay-ish to have. Where, while it doesn't have any impact on your damage output, it does actually hurt your survivability, especially if you're playing a squishy class like Reaper, Gunslinger, Devil Hunter, or Deadeye, you really don't want to have wear in your build, but if you really need to be, then this is quote-unquote acceptable. What you really don't ever want to have is rust. At least not if you're a DPS class. If you're a Bard or a Holy Knight, you could probably get away with rust. If you're a DPS character, so anything that's not a Holy Knight or a Bard, I would never ever have rust active unless there is no way in hell I could get a specific combination of things going on. But really, you do want to make sure to not have any of this. Most importantly, don't have rust, don't have wear. If you need to have any of those, either go for peacefulness or slowness. Back to the values I rambled on a bit about, so let's just check the market. Maybe we are able to find a piece that is actually fitting my ring. So first of all, before we search, I do suspect that this is probably worth 1,000 goldish. Maybe a bit less, but around 1,000 gold is what I deem to be worth it. I know that's not a lot, but like I said, it's not the most optimal combination of things. So we're going to look for Crystal 5 and Heavy Armor 3. Now I don't need to put Heavy Armor 3 in it, because once Crystal is 5, the only other number Heavy Armor could have is 3. So we're going to search. And we're going to... There are actually rings. I haven't checked this before. So there are rings. And we're going to sort this by quality. As you can see here, there is a ring that has Crystal 5, Heavy Armor 3, and Slowness 2. So it has a quote-unquote better negative and a tiny bit of a higher grade. Is listed for a minimum bet of 3,500 gold. I really think that is impossible to sell for this price. Let's take a look at those pieces here. This is definitely more something like Crystal, Heavy Armor, same thing here. A bit higher specialty and wear too, so a better negative. And is listed between 300 gold for a bid and 700 as a buyout. So I estimated my value to be around 1,000 on this one. It's probably more along the lines of 500 goldish, which, you know, is still something. But I would definitely put this on the market, and the way I would list this is probably something like that, and just leave it be. One day should be fine. In order to give you guys a better example of something that is of higher value and higher price, we're going to take a look at my necklace here. Specialty Agility is one of the base combinations that can be used. Quality is incredibly high. Grudge 5, Crystal 3 is one of the hardest combination and one of the most sought after one combinations. And it has Peacefulness 1, which is the best of the worst negatives. And it only is +1. So this is like essentially a god roll. The only thing that would be missing is 12 points in the quality. But trust me, this is already an incredibly valuable piece of equipment. We're just going to quickly do this here. Crit Agility, Engravings. I didn't even know if there are engravings like this out there on necklaces, but we're just going to find it. Crystal 3 and Grudge 5. So there is actually one necklace that is somewhat similar to what I have, but it has a weaker grade. So overall, my stats are better, and my negative is, you could argue, Peacefulness and Wear +1, both are fairly good rolls. And as you can see, this piece here is listed for 35,000 bid and 70,000 buyout. Now, I don't necessarily think somebody will buy this necklace for this price. It's probably going to be bought out for 30,000 goldish, so maybe. Let's take another example here. I have an earring here with Sharp Blunt 5 and Awakening 3, so we're going to take that out. Sharp Blunt is down here. 5 and Awakening. There are no earrings around like this. What? Are you kidding me? There's what? Oh yeah, we're on quotes. Never mind. So, earrings. So there's one earring here that has a better grade than what I have. It has slowness, unfortunately, and is listed for a bid of 10,000 gold. There are somewhat similar earrings here to my price, so you can see mine would actually go for probably a little bit less, maybe like 3,000-4,000 gold. So you can see the quality is actually quite impactful when it comes to earrings and necklaces. On the rings, it doesn't really matter so much. So this hopefully gave you guys an idea on how to kind of like determine the value. I know I ramble on about, but basically look at the grade, look at the stats, look at the engraving combinations. A last minute tip before we head out: in order to determine what engravings are powerful or what engravings are basically valuable, go to the Sealbook tab, filter by legendary, and have a look at the average and recent prices. And this isn't a clear-cut indicator, but this gives you a rough idea what's looked after and what isn't. By far, still the remaining king, grudge. By far one of the most common one, but short blunt is not too far behind it. As you can see, a grudge short blunt combination would also be fairly expensive and powerful. Crystal is the third highest here, so as I told you, Crystal is a pretty good roll. So that's one here. Dark Side is a class engraving, class engraving, class engraving. Adrenaline, that's a new engraving, 7,000. This is something that you can use to deduct the value. If the book prices here are super low like this, you can probably know that, you know, if you get the engraving, like let's say you get a Broken Bone Ambulance engraving combination, it's probably not going to be worth anything at all. Whereas you're going to get a Grudge Adrenaline combination, it's probably going to be really, really, really powerful. Let's just look at that one last time. Grudge 5 and Adrenaline. Let's take a look at what the prices are. Okay, so we have a necklace here with crit specialty, and like this is a gold roll, and you can see how the price spiked up. So definitely keep that in mind. Quality is important on a lot of pieces. Rings, I would say not so much, but even rings with a low grade are still handled with this amount of money. So as you can see, engravings are definitely where most of the money is made from. Take a look at the engravings if you have no idea if the engraving combination is being used. Either ask your guildies, ask around, or just check the market for similar pricings. And just tag along and see, you know, if you really think yours is worth more than what's listed, list it higher. If you're just looking to make some quick buck, just list it a little bit lower, and within a day or two, you should be able to sell your things. Anyways, this is all. I know this has been a fairly long video, I do excuse me. I will be putting timestamps in the description below so you can navigate this video any better. Outside of this, I do hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.
You want me to take you back, you want me to take you back, you want me to take you back, you want me to take